And welcome back to the show, everybody. It's the Catholic Convert Show. And today is Tuesday, June 11th, getting closer and closer to some of the hottest months that we'll have this year. I don't know about over there in Jersey, but I'll tell you what, August is the absolute worst month here in South Carolina. It never seems to have a decent temperature at all. It's you walk in the house, and I'm one of those people that keep my AC at 62 degrees all the time. And then I walk outside, and I'm immediately in hell. So,
yeah, I think
get to walk back in. I'm not even sweating. It's condensation just from the temperature change.
I think August being nasty is kind of a universal sort of a thing. I know people that live in like Alaska or Minnesota, places like that, they'll make that joke where they have two seasons, winter and August. So I think even in the coldest places around, August is pretty nasty, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely nasty
that,
here.
but I'm going to use it now.
I mean, it's just, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, August in Jersey is heat, humidity, mugginess, and a lot of nasty thunderstorms.
Yeah, it's usually the month where we get like bad drought here, like all through May, June, July. It'll be a thunderstorm once, twice a day, every single day. And then August gets here and we'll go the entire 30 days just praying for rain. It's like, I don't know if I know any people up at the Cherokee Reservation that's only 2 hours from here, but if I do, I'm going to go drive them down here. They can do a rain dance or something. It's absolutely terrible. Like everything dies. You know, my water bill goes up just from trying to keep the garden alive.
Yeah, no, I know that one. It's true. Yeah, I got to water like every single morning. Once you get past like the middle of June, watering on a daily is pretty much a must. But there you go.
I'll tell you what. Yesterday, after I had to fly solo because you were busy, went in there and my wife was like, I'm kind of craving tacos today, so that's what we're gonna have. So we made tacos. We sat down, had dinner. After dinner, we sat down. We watched that new sports movie. It's called The Boys in the Boat. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, ever seen it.
It's on my list to watch.
Absolute, dude. It is amazing. It's Rudy on the water, right? And I say it that way because Rudy is one of those sports movies that I appreciated more as a dad. You know, if I'm sitting there with my kids, we're watching Rudy when he finally gets put in and all of a sudden, the crowd's cheering for Rudy and I've got like a little tear starting to form up over here. And I'm like, it's that glorious feeling that comes with watching these sports movies. And I'll tell you what, just watching that movie, I was, all right, let me go check out rowing as a sport just because, it's rowing. How exciting could it be? So I watched the past couple of years worth of Oxford versus Harvard rowing races.
Yeah.
Man, that is exciting. I'm going to have to attend one of those. That is very exciting. And I don't know 7 other people that would be willing to do it, but I'm like, I might get a scull and try it myself. We got tons of rivers down here.
Yeah, actually the right down the street from where I'm at right this second is Mercer County Park in beautiful Mercer County, New Jersey. And there's Mercer Lake in there. And that is often used by the USA rowing team, male and female, for practice before Olympics and other exciting things like that. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if there's any rowing teams at any of the universities here. I really don't. I don't watch a lot of sports, man. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's an Ivy League or a Pacific Northwest kind of thing. But I don't watch a lot of sports anyway. The only time I watch sports is I watch boxing, and it has to be like a handful of specific boxers that I'll watch, or I just sit and watch some of the old fights. Like I'll rewatch the Mickey Ward and Gotti trilogy, you know, back to back to back,
Uh,
you know, sometimes. But, you know, I was watching The Boys in the Boat, and again,
yeah.
it's one of those movies where it's just like Rudy. It's the underdogs versus the Ivy League rich guys. You know, these people had to work for everything. Washington University was pretty much broke as compared to like Cal State and Navy and all these others. And yeah, everybody loves an underdog story as it is already.
Oh, yeah.
The greatest ones like Miracle, Rocky, they're all underdogs. And so that's why we cheer for them. And I started
Yeah.
thinking, there's a lot of times that we feel like underdogs, because maybe we're not as talented as this guy over here. You know, Ed, we talk a lot about how you got gypped out of a chance at the NBA, you know.
So close. So close.
You're so close. So close. But it was Larry Bird had you by like 3 inches of height, you know, completely ruined everything. But you didn't want to play for the Celtics anyway.
No, I did not. Did not. I was a Lakers
but
guy.
Seriously, I think everybody was a Lakers guy back then, except for Celtics guys.
Yeah.
But no, I was thinking, you know,
Well,
we feel like underdogs, or we feel kind of, I guess, average is the word I want to use. We're too average. You know, like, man, if only I had the kind of talent that that guy has. And it's the same thing whether you're like worrying about playing an instrument, singing, athletics, I don't know, even business, right? Some people are just naturally acclimated to just thrive in business. And I felt that way for a long time myself. I was like, I started a company back in 2018. It did pretty well. I had it for about 5 years. I sold it last September. And, you know, I learned in doing that. I had no idea that I would be good at it. I learned in doing all that I had some very specific talents, particularly doing this right here, talking, doing shows, writing. I had a particular talent for that. And it's not something that I really knew I was born with, because when I was a kid, I kind of fantasized about being a writer, but that was only because I saw a picture of Ernest Hemingway on a boat with a machine gun hunting sharks. And I'm like, if that's what a writer does, I want to do that right now. Now, unfortunately, I've never gone shark hunting with a machine gun, but there's still time. I can make it happen.
Yes.
You know, got to keep that dream alive. But I discovered what I was good at by not being good at a lot of things. I was okay at a lot of things. Like, I've done carpentry and auto mechanics and like tons of blue collar jobs. And it's kind of funny that I wanted to talk about this today, considering the saint of the day is Saint Barnabas, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But every one of us has something that is unique about us that we're going to be good at, even if we haven't discovered it yet, that we're going to excel at. And it's a shame that people quit. You know, they quit even trying before they realize that thing that they're good at, that it's a specific gift or a proclivity to become gifted at something that God has given us that we can use to expand the kingdom of God. Right? There's something that you are uniquely good at that I am not, and it is suited for you, that you can use it to expand the kingdom of God. Same thing for me, same thing for the people that watch and listen to this show. But we get so bogged down with trying to turn it into something that we can make money from. Now, don't get me wrong, making money is essential. You know, people say money can't buy happiness, but it's really hard to be happy when you can't pay the bills, right? It's really, and you never see a guy crying in a new Porsche. It's just the way it is. But there are things that each of us have been given as a gift from God that we can use as a tool to expand the kingdom of God. And I wonder how many people just don't realize that. I mean, you find these people all the time that seem to find their calling. And it's like when you find out you have a superpower and then you use it for evil, right? Like Lex Luthor, he's a genius. But instead of using it for the betterment of mankind, he uses it to lose all of his hair and fight a guy who wears his underwear on the outside.
I'm trying to think, how do you follow up on that? But no, but you know what? It's interesting that you bring this up, because I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday, and how you talk about how we all have talents, and we certainly all do. We're all God-given talents, but sometimes what we're very good at is not what we want to be good at, or what we think we should be good at. And so,
That's a good
you know
point.
what I'm saying? So you'll pursue, you're like, I'm going to be the best. Like me, if I decided, no, I really want to be in the NBA, I'd still be the age I am now and still pushing and going for that, and not have done anything else, because I was so focused on that. And I also try to get people to understand it's the same way when you're talking about being in service to your church, to your parish, things like that. Um, where, maybe you want to be out there, you want to have something that's a bit more visible. You want to be giving talks at your parish, and you want to be doing this and that and everything else. You know what? Maybe that's not what you're really good at. Maybe, I mean, yeah, you'd love to give a great rousing talk and have people come up to you afterwards and pat you on the back and say, wow, that was inspirational. But maybe that's not what you're called to do. And I think of my own little journey when I started getting a bit more involved. And I remember when I told the parish priest that I wanted to start getting a bit more involved in things there. And he's like, this is great. You've got so many skills. I think we can really put that to use. And about a week or so later, I get a call, and he says, come into the office and see me, because I think I've got something that's going to be perfect for you. So I go in there and I'm all excited. I mean, I don't know what he's going to have me do, but I know it's going to be huge. And he says, well, somebody who was with our food pantry for the last couple of years moved. And so I need somebody to take over his position in the food pantry. It means coming in at weird hours, accepting donations from people, and then sorting out canned goods and all these sort of things, and boxing up things in this dirty, nasty basement of ours, and being ready to go out and deliver those. And I thought, that's not what I want to do. Nobody's going to see me doing that. Nobody's going to hear me doing that. I don't want to be sorting.
I don't want to take care of hungry people. That's not even in the Bible.
Well, you see, because then you pointed out there, I actually missed the point. I'm thinking about being in this damp basement, separating the green beans from the string beans, from the lima beans and everything like that. But that had nothing to do with what I was really there for. But, I thought about it for a moment. I thought, okay, you know what? This is coming from a priest. He probably knows a bit more about this kind of stuff than I do. He probably understands callings better than I do. So I took a breath and I said, yeah, Father, that sounds great. I'll do that. Well, within a couple of weeks of doing that, they actually found someone else who was really excited and always wanted to work in the food pantry, and came in and replaced me, because they had all these different other ministries they wanted me to get involved with. And that's how I got into most of the stuff that I do now. But if I hadn't said yes to the food pantry, I wouldn't have been there. I wouldn't have met the people that said, hey, you would be perfect for our adult faith formation team, for our men's ministry, for this, for that, and the other thing, for CCD, and for RCIA. And I mean, we've talked about it. Man, I should just have a cot there at the church at this point. But if I had said no to that first thing, to the food pantry, and just stayed home and said, well, that's not the way God wanted me to serve, I'd still be sitting on a couch waiting for that next phone call of what I was called to do. So again, you sometimes don't have a good handle on what your talents are in this world as far as careers and things like that. And we certainly don't always have a good handle on what our service to God talents are. And so when an opportunity rises, I tell people who ask me about this, they say, hey, listen, they've asked me to be a part of the bereavement ministry or this ministry, that ministry. And I don't know if that's for me. And I say, if somebody's asking you to do it, there's a reason. There's something they saw in your character, in your behavior, in your way of dealing with things that said this guy would be perfect or this girl would be perfect for this ministry. So do it for a while. You know, if you want, say, listen, I'm going to do this for 3 months, and if I'm not happy, I'm going to move on. Fine. But do it if you're invited to do it, because you don't know. That might be exactly where you're supposed to be. You might get in there and you might love what you're doing with that particular ministry. And so that would be my advice. But again, you know, I think we lose sight of the fact that God knows us a little bit better than we know ourselves. And so sometimes you feel like there's God calling you in a certain direction, but you're like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't sound right. I think God's got this one wrong. And path instead of God's never really works out all that well. I've got a list of failures in my background that would back that up. But when I've listened to God, when I've let him call the shots, even if I was like a little hesitant at first, it has always worked out.
Yeah. And you know, it's kind of like me. I'm not one of those guys that I don't do anything halfway. Like, we launched this thing and said, you know what, we're doing it daily. We didn't go and say we're going to do it once a week. We didn't say we're going to do it twice, you know, twice a month or whatever. We're going to do it every single day. When I launched my website with my newsletter, I could send a couple a week. Nope. One goes out every single day. When I built my first company, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to dump all of my savings, to the chagrin of my wife, who was trying to not throw up as I was paying for everything, just to launch it. I don't do anything halfway. Like, I watched a video on YouTube where a guy was like, hey, if you're trying to add some fun cardio to your workouts, get a punching bag. So I bought a punching bag on a Monday. No joke. On Tuesday, I was like, all right, that was fun. I drove to a Golden Gloves gym and I joined the gym and I hired a one-on-one boxing coach so I could start taking fights, and paid for a boxing license. I'm serious. I don't do anything halfway. I jump in with both feet. And when I do that, I find that, okay, I'm not suited to get beat in the face as many times as I've gotten beat in the face. Wasn't terrible, you know, in the ring. I won my fair share, but I had one concussion that left me with blurry vision for about 7 weeks. So I don't do that anymore, simply because I don't want to die before I'm supposed to. Right. But
yeah,
it's kind of like with, yeah, you know, maybe, but I never thought that I would be doing what I do now for a living. And I realized I can take the same talents and skills that I have as a writer, as a speaker, because I've spoken in multiple conventions and places like that, and put together events for other people. I'm good at those things, even though I walk in feeling like I'm a complete imposter and there's no reason anybody would want to read what I say, much less listen to what I have to say. And I can say I can use those things not just to feed my family, but I can use those to feed my soul. I can use those to feed other people's souls. I can use that to expand the kingdom of God. And so that's what I've been able to do. And I mean, let's say your talent is accounting, right? How do you, and that's what you do for a living. You're an accountant, and you do taxes and tax planning and wealth management all day. How can you do the same thing to expand the kingdom of God? Well, it's like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Or not even a couple of weeks, I think it was last week, when we were talking about the quote that was attributed to St. Francis. It was, at all times, preach the gospel, and when necessary, use words. So preaching the gospel without using words is loving taking care of people, showing them kindness, showing them the light of Christ through your actions. So just because you can't directly jump on and be like, hey, I'm going to be the accountant for the church, because then you put Betty, who's been doing it for 47 years, out of a job, and now her and her husband are stuck talking to each other, and nobody wants that. You can say, what can I do for the kingdom of God? You can offer your talents to help people for free. It's a sacrifice of your time. You're not getting anything out of it, but you're giving something of value to other people. You own a painting business. How can you expand the kingdom of God as a painter? Your church doesn't need to be painted every single week. Maybe you could send your crew in there to help them with, a remodel or something. But what about finding those people that are in these neighborhoods that, their house could use a fresh coat, and maybe they can't afford to do it? Hey, I'm going to pick one person per month out of every neighborhood, and I'm going to offer to paint their house for free. It's an act of kindness. It's an act of charity. And that is preaching the gospel through your actions. You're not doing it with the expectation of anything in return. But it's just like on that movie, The Boys in the Boat. They had like 50 people show up to try to make the team. They were choosing 8 people, and then they chose a 9th as a reserve, right? One guy goes down, the other guy can take one of the seats, because there's only 8 seats on a slip, right? And that's it. It's an 8-man team. What were the other 40 odd people going to do? Well, no, I'm just going to stay here and sulk because I'm supposed to be in that boat. No, you're supposed to be somewhere else, right? You might have been good at it, but there was someone who was better. And now that's why they're doing what they're doing. There's something that you're going to be better at than everybody else, or that you're at least going to be better at than the average person, so that you can use those tools, use those gifts and talents and strengths, not only just for, like I said, feeding your family, if it's a job, if it's a skill that's marketable, but for taking care of other people. And I like that you brought up that no one's going to see me down here in this dirty, nasty basement sorting cans at 3 a.m. because that's when the guy wanted to come and drop off the donation on his way to his job at 4, right? I see a lot of people that get caught up in the vanity aspect of how much they can serve and how holy they are. It's, hey, look at me. I do all of these things for God. And it's kind of like trying to one up every other Christian. You're at church 5 days a week. I'm there 6. You pray every day. I pray twice a day. And it's constantly trying to one up each other. But service to God is always visible to the one who matters, God. It doesn't have to be visible to other people. And I see the same thing with kind of this personal brand mentality that people have on social media. Well, I see this guy, he's got 300,000 followers and everybody's looking at him. I wish they looked at me that way. Well, you know how that guy ended up in that position? There was one thing that he was good at, and he cared more about taking care of people and solving their problems, whether they were customers, clients, or if it's just like free stuff, free advice, content, whatever that he's putting out on his social media platforms. He wasn't making it about himself. He was making it about service to other people. And then, of course, he was elevated. He was serving very much. And I'm not trying to say that every single one of the people who are like that on social media are in any way holy or whatever, but it's a great analogy because that's what Christ did. Christ did not once try to exalt himself. He served others. He's washing the feet of others. He's sacrificing himself for the sake of others. He made everything about others because of his love for them. And I'm really glad that you realize that when you're like, no one's going to see me down here. But wait, this guy might see something in me that I don't see because I'm blinded by this vanity that, look, I mean, it's natural. Everybody's going to be vain. Everybody wants to be seen or respected as important or whatever. And I don't care if they say they don't, they're lying. They do. Right. But it's when you get past that human element and realize that being in service to others, because you don't have to be, but want to be, that's when your vocation, your true calling shines. That's why they've got a 5-year formation period for deacons. Oh, I'm called. I feel called to be a deacon. Okay, when you realize how much service goes into it for the first 2 years, which are the discernment period of the formation, and you're nothing but an aspirant, then you realize, do I really want to serve others this bad, or was I doing it because I wanted to be up there and, giving homilies or whatever? It's the same reason why some people go into the seminary wanting to be a priest. They feel called to it. But how long does it take to be a priest? What, 7, 8 years?
Yeah, for Jesuits, it's actually 10.
Yeah, and for Jesuits, it's 10 because they're kind of like the warrant officers of seriously, they're kind of like the warrant officers, because when you, like, a warrant officer, he's not an officer. He's still technically enlisted, but he's the specialist guy. Like, if you got a warrant officer in the military, he's like the combat guy you want to trust everything to. You don't salute him, but he doesn't have to salute anybody else either, especially if he's a chief, right? And
chief warrant officer.
He doesn't have to, right? He's the expert in that specific thing. Like, if you got a warrant officer that is serving in the capacity of IT, he's the best IT guy there, and he doesn't have to salute anyone that comes in, right? So that's kind of what the Jesuits are, but we're not going to go down the hill of why Jesuits are problematic. We're not going to do that. But there's a lot to say on that subject.
If you want to see that, just check my
there.
Yeah, if you want to learn about that, just check my Twitter feed. you'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Just look at Ed's Twitter feed, and we can see all the issues that he takes with Jesuits.
I am up. I'm up to. I'm currently blocked by 27 Jesuits. I think it's a record.
Nice, but see, it's kind of the same thing as warrant officers in the military, because they got a problem with authority once they realize they get into a certain position, right? Not all, but exactly. I've met quite a bit.
Yeah.
But again, it's that vanity thing that we all want to be seen. We all want to be praised and respected, but we're chasing this worldly external validation.
Yeah, it is.
When we do that, we miss out on so many opportunities to what we're really called to do.
We do. I know that, I'm not throwing my parish under the bus by saying any of this, because I'm sure it's the same way at most parishes across the country, where when they have casino night and they have their Valentine's Day dance and things like that, oh my gosh, there's so many people that volunteer to be a part of that and be on the committee. And then during that big dinner, during the big casino night, they all get to stand up and take a bow and thank you so much for all your hard work. And listen, it is hard work. I have nothing against these folks. But then I don't see those folks the rest of the year. Like, when I'm later on this evening, when I'm down in the church basement for my adult faith formation committee meeting, I'll be there with the same 3 or 4 other people that I've been meeting with once a month for the last 10 or 15 years. And we're all getting really old. Now, I'm the youngest guy there by about 15 years when I go to that meeting, if that gives you any clue. But That's what happens is
so the other members of the committee are Moses, Elijah, Enoch, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Got it.
Exactly. And but that's the thing. But that, we'll show up there. The rest of the campus is dead. There's nobody around. And we'll go down in the basement and we'll be there for 2 hours planning out the next several months worth of Bible studies and guest speakers and all this stuff that nobody knows that somebody actually meets to put that stuff together. And that's it. And then I'll say goodbye to those folks, and we'll meet again next month in the heat of July and in the heat of August and stuff, getting things ready for September. But everyone wants to be a part of that committee where someone's going to stand up and ask you to stand up in your gown or your tuxedo and say, "Aren't they wonderful? Look at what a fabulous job they did putting this all together." But I say avoid those kind of things because there's always plenty of people who volunteer for that stuff. The people that volunteer for the canned food drives and the Bible studies and things like that we're all short on, folks go around. And sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 of these meetings in the same night, and the same 3 or 4 of us will stand up from one table after we're done with a meeting. We'll go down the hall to another room and have that meeting. It's the same people. We could have just stayed where we were, but it's a different ministry, a different committee. So we have to get up from one room and go to the next. And I always laugh about that. But I was going to say it's a thankless job, but it's honestly not, because like you mentioned earlier, there is somebody very important who's paying attention, and that's God. Not that we do it for that reason, but for the recognition part of it, but for the service aspect of it, to serve God. That's what we're all here for. And also you're talking about, like, what does an accountant, what can he do? What can he offer? You'd be surprised. I tell folks all the time, go to the rectory and say, here's what I do for a living. Here's where my skills are. How can you guys use me? Because, we have accountants at our parish. We have a very large parochial school, and they have a big carnival every June. In fact, it'll be next week. Well, they need a number of accountants to go in there and take care of the books leading up to it, and during the week of the carnival, and then afterwards. And I have a friend who's a plumber who donates his time and equipment and manpower to taking care of plumbing issues at the school and at the church. I have friends who are in law enforcement, and they'll volunteer their time to be the security for the carnivals and the Sunday parking fiasco and all that kind of stuff. So it really doesn't matter what there's electricians that I know that they set up for the carnival, and which takes them, they start like a week and a half, 10 days away from the carnival, setting up all, you can't imagine all the power that's involved in running all the different carnival rides and the booths and the food stands and all that kind of stuff. These guys are there for 10 days, 8 hours a day, setting up for that, donating that time, donating their employees' time and stuff. So whatever talent it is that you have, your church can certainly put it to use. One thing churches are good at is knowing how they can take you and use you and use your skills to help out the parish and your fellow congregants. So don't be shy about it, and don't think, oh, well, I'm a ventriloquist. How is that going to help the church? Go knock on it. They'll find something for you to do. I'm telling you. You might be the talent at the Valentine's Day dinner or something.
Yeah, something for fundraising. Yeah, you're 100% right. If you walk up to your priest and say, "This is what I do for a living. How can you use me in service to the church?" And if he goes, "I don't know right now." Okay, cool. But now he knows that if he needs somebody with those skills, you are available. Right? It's very simple. Even if you're just kind of hanging back on the bench, so to speak, since we're started off talking about sports movies, you're on the bench, but if somebody goes down, you're there. You can fill that gap. You can fill the need where it's needed. And just being ready and willing to be of service, and being already like put in the notice that you're able to be called on. That's a service in and of itself. It takes a weight off of people's minds if they only have one guy, and if he goes on vacation with his family, or she decides that, hey, we're going to move because my husband got a new job or whatever, they know somebody's there to take over. But yeah, I've noticed kind of the same thing with just about, well, everything, between whether it's a parish, whether it's on social media. Everybody wants this big neon sign saying, hey, look at me. Look at all the cool stuff I did. Look at what I do. Right. And that's cool, but who are you really doing it for? Are you doing it for the validation? Now, there's people that will post what they do, and they're using it to inspire others to take action. Like, these are all of the ministries I'm involved in. You've talked about all the different ministries that you're involved in multiple times. And it's not saying, hey, look at me, look how busy I am, look how much time I give to the church. It's, if I can do all of this and I'm a geriatric, you young bucks can get in there and do the same thing. You can do a quarter of what I'm doing. Right? It's to, but seriously though, it's to inspire others into doing it.
Yeah, hey, that's it.
You know, it's like I posted the picture this past weekend of me on that father-son hike. That my legs are still killing me. They're a little better today, but like, take your kids on adventures. How hard is it to just say, hey guys, get your sons, you know, people at the parish, get your sons, meet all at this trail. We'll do a father-son hike, even if it's not official or whatever. And it's just, hey, we did this thing. You don't need to have the priest stand up at the end of mass, you know, after the procession, and as he's greeting everybody walking out of the church, hey, make sure you go thank that guy for putting together this hike. You don't need any of that. Right? You can take some initiative and just start serving and helping. It doesn't have to be in official, recognizable capacity, you know. But yeah, I get that there's a fine line there, and it's no different than anything else when it comes to, you know, a sin. It's the intention of it. Are you posting for vanity? Are you talking about all the things you do for vanity? Or are you doing it with sincere hope that it inspires other people to do the same? Because you can be accused of vanity while doing it with a sincere hope that you're trying to inspire others to do the same in their communities, in their parishes, in their own families, whatever it is. But their accusations are baseless, and you don't even have to defend yourself against them, because you know where your heart lies. God knows where your heart lies in the matter. But it does take a little bit of honest self-reflection to make that determination. Am I doing this because I really enjoy serving others, or do I like the way people look at me because I serve others?
Yeah. You know, I'll give you a very good example of what you're saying there. Is that, and one of the things we've talked about is when I'll put together bags of necessities, really, and go down to some really nasty parts of Philadelphia and look for the homeless people and talk to them, spend time with them, and give them these toiletries and socks and clean underwear and new shoes and things like that. And I'll talk about that when I talk to Bible study groups and things like that. And not because I want anyone patting me on the back for doing that, but a perfect example of why I do it is because one time I was doing my introductory remarks during a Bible study, and I spoke about some experiences I had the previous week with the homeless people. And I was talking about, and I wasn't even focused on this aspect of it, but one of the things I mentioned was that along with the other items I give them gift cards to fast food restaurants and things like that. Because I don't give money because, first of all, I don't want to make them a target if they've got money in their pocket and people know that and take advantage of them and steal it. And there's not a lot of honor among some of these folks out there. The other reason is that if it's a gift card to McDonald's or Wendy's, whatever, that's what it's going to be used for. Food. It's going to be used for their lunch. It's going to be used for their dinner. It has no other value. So I talked about how I always have $50, $60 worth of gift cards, usually $5 or $10 at a time, in my wallet. And so when I run into these folks, even if I don't have my bags with me, I can hand them a gift card. And I know at least they're going to have lunch that day. They're going to have dinner that day. And I just happened to mention that as part of what I was discussing with the Bible study group. The next week when I came in, about 7 or 8 people came up to me and said, you know what? After what you told us last week, I've been carrying those gift cards with me, and I've already given out 10 of them. I've given out 12 of them. And so here we're, so total in 1 week's time, there were a total of probably 50 or 60 of these gift cards that were given to homeless people, only because I had mentioned it the week before. And it's one of those things that you don't normally think about. Who thinks about keeping gift cards in their wallet in case they run into a homeless person? But since some dopey Bible instructor mentioned it, a handful of people did it. And then because of that, there were, a couple dozen people who had a decent hot meal that previous week because of that. So that's like you're saying, it's not like, yeah, I'm sure there are people that are thrilled to get the pat on the back and way to go. Good for you. The people that know me know that that's not me at all. I'm actually very shy and reserved in real life. And I don't talk about a lot of this stuff unless I'm asked about it. But there's the example is that I spoke about those gift cards. A lot of people heard it. A lot of people decided to keep those in their wallet. And then a lot of people received food through those gift cards just because of my little comment at a Bible study.
Yeah. It's like I said earlier today. There's the two most important tools that a Catholic can have is courage and humility. And if you can leaven each one with the other, it's really hard to go wrong. Right? Because especially the humility part, right? But you can't be so humble that you're afraid to take action. So you need to leaven it with some courage. And you can't be so courageous that you become this arrogant jerk saying, look at me, look how great I am. You need to leaven that with a little humility. And if you can do that, you'll be on the right track to live your life preaching the gospel without having to use a whole lot of words. Now, it sounds funny that coming from me because I write, so I use all of the words. All of the words. They're huge. But you get what I'm saying. There is that difference. And like, is it a performance or is it sincere? That's what it falls to. But
yeah,
I'm curious now because of that picture you posted earlier. I want to find out what you drug out of Ed's creepy basement.
Well, you've probably heard. Well, see, I don't know, but with you being a recent convert, I don't know if you are familiar with the Archbasilica of Saint John Lateran, which is just outside of Rome. It's in Rome and right outside of Vatican City. A lot of people don't know.
It's one of the 4 major churches.
Oh, see, you do know. You did your studying there. So, and it's actually also it's the home church. It's the mother church of all Catholics, and it's the church that whoever the Pope is at the time, that is the church that they are affiliated with. They are associated with, and actually up until I forget what year, but there's a building that's attached to it that was the residence of the Pope until several hundred years ago. But the basilica has been there. It was founded actually in about, I think it was 324. Now the church that's there now, or the basilica that's there now, was rebuilt after a couple of major fires that took place in the, I believe it was the 1400s. But it has existed in some form since 324, which is pretty incredible. And a lot of people don't know this. It's St. John because it was dedicated to both St. John the Evangelist and also St. John the Baptist. And the word Lateran comes from the family that actually owned that property back in the 4th century. So it's a very important church to all Catholics. It was actually a church that was a favorite of my favorite pope, which is Pope Leo the 13th, who Pope Leo the 13th, as you all know, I'm sure, passed away in 1903. Just an incredible pope. I love that guy. But he was very fond of the church of the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran, spent a tremendous amount of time there. In fact, when he died, he was initially in 1903, he was buried at in St. Peter's, like most popes are. And then in 1924, his body was moved to the Church of St. John Lateran. So that's where he is. So he's one of the very few popes that are not buried there at St. Peter's. But he died in 1903. In 1908, the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran had been granted permission to design a special medal that could be worn by priests, deacons, and actually even the laity on various holy days throughout the year when they attended Mass at the Archbasilica. And when they would wear that medal, along with certain prayers that would be said leading up to the holy day and things of that nature, there would be indulgences that would be granted as part of this. So they wanted they had this medal that they would wear on holy day to honor Pope Leo XIII, who had such a fondness for the Church of St. John Lateran. And this document, which you all saw posted on Twitter earlier today, how much of that you can see, but this is the document that gave St. John Lateran permission to actually implement these indulgences that would be given for wearing this special medal honoring Pope Leo XIII on holy days throughout the year. So this is all in Latin. I've translated it to some degree, but that's I love. This is one of my favorite items there. It's like I said, it's from 1908. So it's, how old is that? 100 and whatever, almost 120 years old. 116 years, I guess that would be. And that one is not actually in the basement. That one hangs in my office on the wall there.
Nice,
but kind of cool.
And so that's the only copy of that document.
This is the only one in existence. It's got some really important signatures on the bottom. I don't know if you can even see there. Let me see. We get this glare going on here, but this right here, this is the symbol. That this actually is a symbol that you see out in front of the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran, and that's their official symbol there. But yeah, so there you go. So that's what we have from Ed's creepy basement or / creepy office for today.
No, that's really cool. And for people who are inquiring, Ed knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who might know another guy that can help you import rare religious documents for a price. No, that's really cool. Price. Yeah, right. But no, yeah, I know that St. John Lateran is one of the 4 major churches. But funny enough, I forget the 4th one because I know there's St. Peter's, there's St. Mary Majors, there's St. John Lateran, and I forget the name of the 4th one for some reason. And it'll probably come to me after we get off the show, and I'll be like, I'll scream it out. I'll scream it out walking down the hallway to go get some lunch or something, and I'll freak my wife out. But let's go ahead and check in on our saint of the day, which is Saint Barnabas.
Nice.
Yeah. Before the show, me and Ed were talking about how cool of a name Barnabas is, and we have no idea of if anyone is being named Barnabas anymore. But Barnabas was a Jew of Cyprus, and he comes as close to anyone, as close as anyone could outside the 12 to being the OG 12, including Matthias. I'm going to say that. to being a full-fledged apostle. He was very closely associated with St. Paul. He actually introduced Paul to Peter and the other apostles, and he served as kind of a mediator between the former persecutor and the still suspicious Jewish Christians, because, Paul wasn't no saint to begin with. And when a Christian community had developed at Antioch, Barnabas was sent as the official representative of the Church of Jerusalem to pretty much kind of incorporate them into the fold. Now, he and Paul both instructed as teachers in Antioch for about a year, in which they took all the relief contributions to Jerusalem right after. Later, Paul and Barnabas, who were now clearly seen as charismatic leaders, were sent by Antioch officials to preach to the Gentiles, and they had enormous success there. There was a miracle in Lystra, and people wanted to offer sacrifices to them as gods, but they were thinking Barnabas was Zeus and Paul was Hermes. But the two were like, no, we're the same nature as you guys. We proclaim to you the good news that you should turn from these idols to the living God. But not all was peaceful. They were expelled from one town, and then they had to go to Jerusalem to clear up the ever-recurring controversy about circumcision. And baptism is the new circumcision. That's what they were talking about. And even, the best of friends can have differences, because Paul would sometimes want to visit places they had evangelized, and Barnabas wanted to take along his cousin John Mark, who was the author of the Gospel Mark. But Paul insisted that since Mark had deserted them once, he wasn't even fit to join them. And so they had a disagreement that was so sharp that Paul and Barnabas kind of separated, mad at each other. Barnabas took Mark to Cyprus, and then Paul took Silas to Syria. And of course, they were later reconciled, Paul, Barnabas, and Mark. But when Paul stood up to Peter for not wanting to eat with the Gentiles for fear of his Jewish friends, we learned that even Barnabas was carried away by their hypocrisy. And that's all referenced in Galatians 2, 1 through 13. But Barnabas is simply one of those guys who he dedicated his life to the Lord. He was a man that was filled with the Holy Spirit and faith, and thereby large numbers were added to the Lord. And even when he and Paul were expelled from Antioch in Pisidia, which is modern day Turkey, they were still filled with joy in the Holy Spirit. And that's why I was talking about earlier, was you simply want to serve the Lord. It doesn't matter where you're sent is where you go, right? Ed was sent to the food bank basement to sort out cans. That's where God wanted him to be. That's where, when he said, Father, I want to get more involved, and the priest said, I got an idea that's perfect for you. And he sent him there. Now, he could have said, well, that's not where I wanted to go. I don't want to go there at all. Well, then what would have happened? Some people would have been without, because they wouldn't have had everything sorted the way it would have needed to be. Maybe there was no one there to take donations, so it didn't get donated at all. Barnabas just went where he was told to go, because all he wanted to do was serve the Lord in whatever capacity that he could. And that's what we've been talking about this entire show. Serve the capacity however you can, even if it's not the most glamorous, even if it's not the most visible, and even if it's not really something you want to be doing. And within that regard, if there's something that I don't want to do, I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm very, very happy when somebody else starts doing that job. Not even going to lie about it. I'm very happy that someone who wants to do it is doing it, because they'll be better at it than me. And the service to God is all that much greater, because I'm good at certain things that it's easy for me to do. And when there's something that I'm not good at, I'm just that guy that, well, I'm not good at this, I'm going to quit doing it. It's the only reason I'm not a NFL player right now, is that I didn't enjoy doing it. Decided it wasn't for me, kind of like Ed in the NBA. No, again, Barnabas was just that regular guy. He wanted to go wherever he
It's
could to serve the Lord. I knew Ed was going to eventually say something, but that's what he wanted. And
no,
that's what
that dream is
we
still
should all
alive, Jeff.
strive for.
The dream is still alive.
Yeah. We've got the
It's
NBA. We've got the Caitlin Clark League. Oh, that's going to be controversial because we've got the NBA. We've got the Caitlin Clark League. Because that's the official name, right? Anyway, now maybe we can have an elderly league. We can call it the Elder League, and you can be the star.
It'll be a wheelchair league or something, right? I'll be in there. No. Listen, Jeff, when you were talking about Barnabas and all that, I was thinking about just a quick story. Is that I saw a sister of charity speak a number of years ago, and she told a story about how when she was young and just became a sister of charity, she was so excited because she was going to be working side by side with Mother Teresa, and she got there to Calcutta. And on her very first day there, sister sends her up to the rooftop with all the soiled, dirty linens of all the beds and the stuff that they would wrap people's wounds with, and all the clothing that the sisters would wear. And she said, wash these out very well, hang them to dry. And she's like, oh, hey, it's my first day. They're breaking me in. So she does spends all day washing and hanging all these linens and things like that, getting all the blood stains out, the dirt. It was, a mess. And the next day she's like, okay, what sister, and what am I doing today? And she said, oh, you're going to be washing the linens and things like that. And she said, oh, okay. And she did it. She was doing this for weeks and weeks. And finally, she's like, this isn't what I came here for. This is not what I became a sister of charity for. And she goes to Mother Teresa, and says, sister, when do I get to do the real work that God wants me to do? And Mother Teresa said, you're doing it. Without you doing this, we have no linens to put on the beds for these people. The sisters have no clothes to wear to serve these people. We have no dressings to dress the wounds of these people. You're serving God in the most important way that you can. And so finally it struck this sister. That's what she was called to do. She wasn't going to be there on the front lines, going out in the street and serving the people directly, but she was going to be behind the scenes and making all that service possible. And she wound up doing that job and for the rest of her time there with the sisters, and she did it happily and gladly.
I love it. I've got a funny story about the parochial vicar at my church and Mother Teresa. Pretty funny story. I might tell it tomorrow if you remind me. Let's just say that my parochial vicar is a living third. He's a living third class relic, right? So, nice. But we're running out of time. All right. We're gonna wrap this one up.
Yep.
Glad to have Ed back on the show because I know that nobody really liked listening to me ramble for an hour. So, quick reminder: download Holy Habits on the App Store and Google Play. Best Catholic habit tracker out there. We are going to have the co-founder of the app on the show soon. And I'm looking forward to that. Hear him talk about everyday sanctity. And he might even take away the show. But, by the way, he doesn't pay me for this. It's just a really good app. Because I can't get paid from a non-paid app. It's a free app. But we'll wrap this one up. We'll see you all tomorrow. And God bless everybody.
God bless you, everybody. Have a good one.